Hello everyone, this is FoxyPapaSmurf, or FPS Gamer for short, and this is a recreation of the classic Halo 2 map, Terminal. Now Terminal has yet to see a truly great recreation until this point because a central part of what made this map so enjoyable was the unpredictability of the train that comes barreling through the map at random intervals. And the limitations on Forge and previous iterations in the Halo franchise have rendered it impossible to recreate a mechanic like that. But with Halo 5's new scripting abilities, that's all about to change. This map I've decided to name Station 7 after the original, and is an exact one-to-one recreation. I went to some pretty extreme lengths when creating this map to make sure that it was exactly as you remember it from the original. And in designing this map from the ground up, I even went back into archived footage of the Halo 2 multiplayer map pack that this map was available in, and studied the elements that the creators wanted in the original.
Terminal. It's a train terminal. Exists in New Mombasa.
It's supposed to be Zanzibar Plus.
What if we took Zanzibar to the next level? What would that map be?
At the beginning of Halo 2, we were trying to think of different ways where we can make our maps more asymmetrical. It's fun to play as the attacker, and then it's fun to play as the defender. It's completely asymmetrical. There are two bases, but it's not a mirrored environment or an environment that is rotated so it's identical on both sides. The nature of it is it's imbalanced. So the attackers have a starting location and the defenders have a base, but they're not equal in like which one is easier to defend or easier to attack. Most of our Halo 2 maps play in single flag CTF.
So I studied every room meticulously, taking measurements by using the Halo 2 Warthog, which I know to be exactly 20 feet in length. Then going into the Halo 5 Forge mode, taking a block that's 20 by 20, attached 10 of them together to make myself a ruler, and measured out the entire map with landmarks to make sure that it was exactly to scale. From very complicated parts of the map to even the most minute details, I took over 50 screenshots of the original map to make sure that every single piece was as you would remember it. There were some obvious restrictions in the Halo 5 canvas, but if it was possible to do it, I made sure it made it into the recreation. The obvious element in this map that was important to get correct is the train, and before doing any work on the rest of the map, I made sure that I could recreate the train successfully.
The only real dynamic element is the train.
If you play too close to the tracks, you'll die.
And this train took a lot of testing to get right. As I mentioned previously, this has yet to be done before, and this is really testing the limitations, or really the lack thereof, in Halo 5's Forge. But were you to encounter a train, there really is no stopping it. It would barrel past you and kill you maliciously time after time after time.
Nope.
But an interesting element that made it into Halo 5 is this booster ability, which if you catch the train coming at the right time, you can move out of the way. A big portion of what made the map so fun is the vehicular gameplay that made it into the map.
The vehicles are fun, but they're not a key component of how you win or lose that, and we wanted to make a vehicle encounter significant.
So I knew the vehicles had to be done correctly. However, due to some restrictions in the Halo 5 Forge canvas, the train doesn't exactly kill any vehicle upon contact. So what I did to combat this was add instant kill bounties around the map where players don't actually go, but vehicles tended to often fly to where they hit by the train. One change I brought into the map was replacing a ghost with a gun goose, and this was mostly to combat the Wraith.
You cannot ignore the Wraith. The Wraith is a big deal. You need to take out the Wraith if you're an attacker. If you're a defender, you want to preserve the Wraith.
Everything that we're thinking about is balance. We put a lot of thought into making sure that a guy on foot can destroy that vehicle.
Aside from balancing the attacker's side with the defender's side having a Wraith, the Mongoose adds the flexibility of adding a player onto the back of it, which of course isn't available if using a ghost. Moving on to the geometry of the map, there were a lot of places in the original that were inaccessible to different levels of the map, and this was to fragment the gameplay and increase travel times from one base to another. So, if you couldn't reach a platform in the original, chances are you also can't reach that in Halo 5. And this extends also to the defending side, which had a one-way path. It was impossible to climb up onto this platform, and this meant raising that platform a little bit higher than it was in the original because there's a clamber ability that exists in Halo 5. And also, just like the original, these boxes are omitted from all CTF game types. Jump ups were an important part of really every map in the Halo 2 canvas, and I made sure that any popular ones, both intentional and unintentional, also made it into this map, including the pillar in the defending base that allowed players to stand on it and surprise enemies that were coming in the front doors. There were also a plethora of ways to make it up onto the tracks if you were on the ground floor, and I made sure that they made their way into the canvas as well. Additionally, there was an attic that existed on the defending side where players would spawn, mostly in objective game types, and this spawning location was used strategically by the defenders. Every detail from the drop down to a magnum in the second floor of the garage, to the 3 pillars with lights that hung over the defending team's base, and even the perch that extends out the 3rd floor that allows players to walk alongside the building made it into the map. This allowed players to enter an area of high risk, but also allowed them to get a bird's eye view of the attacking team's base and their activities. The fidelity extends even to the weapons placed on the map, including the sword, sniper rifles, shotgun, and rocket launcher, and even your loadout weapons like magnums and SMGs made it into the map in their correct places. Overshield was also an important aspect of the gameplay in the original map, and even down to the location of the grenades was meticulously studied and placed correctly. As for the changes made to the map, the biggest one was making the track straight. Originally on the attacking team's side of the map, there was a slight bend to the track. This was no longer possible, but when you go back and study the original map, you see that this S in the track doesn't really affect the gameplay too adversely. Now, for scaling purposes, this base was condensed slightly, but the gameplay really wasn't hindered in any realistic way by this. You still have all your elements available, but the garage is noticeably shorter than before, but it doesn't really have any effect on gameplay. Meticulous care was even placed into the creation of the plaza outside the defending team's base. However, the palm trees have now been replaced by pine trees, which are the only type of vegetation currently available in Halo 5's Forge. Another change was the location of the defending team's sniper rifle. Before, this area was a little bit more complex, and this was simplified mostly due to constraints on object count. As stated previously, the ghost on the attacking team was now replaced with a mongoose, and the small courtyard in between the 2 garages has now been extended. However, this now open area creates a great location for a stronghold base. The gates that open into the main garage used to open as players draw close to them. However, if trigger zones are ever available in the future, I will script these to open as players approach them. One of the very few objective changes that I deliberately made to the map, so I added a little pipe sticking out of the wall that players can access via the rails. So there's still an element of risk involved. There are now a couple splinter grenades available for some vehicular management, and also there are no plasma rifles available in Halo 5, but there were 5 in total on the original map, so these have been replaced with new Forerunner and Covenant weapons. As far as the gameplay goes, you'll find that players will fight overpower weapons naturally without having to be encouraged to do so. And this, of course, if you've been a Halo player for a long time, you'll know is a quintessential part of what makes Halo so enjoyable, especially on this map. The overshield is also an important aspect to the map because an unintended exploit that I found was that a player with a full overshield can actually be hit by the train once without dying. The vehicular gameplay is also a very important part and creates a plethora of dramatic encounters that have a tendency to orbit around powerful vehicles like the Wraith and the Warthog. You'll find that the new Spartan abilities in Halo 5 play really nicely with the vehicles and the geometry of the new map.
Positive hit.
The new Strongholds game type also made it into this iteration of the map, with 3 bases in total, one being on the second floor of the garage, another being in the plaza between the 2 garages, and a third inside the terminal itself, which actually became one of the most fun encounters you can have on this map due to the unpredictability of the train. Well, thank you guys so much for taking a look at this map. As I mentioned, this was an absolute blast to recreate. I loved going back into the original map and taking details and bringing them into the new one. There are a lot of people that weren't aware of this map or didn't play it, mostly because it's been at least a decade now since the map was first introduced. This was a very fun, ambitious, and frustrating project, but I think it all paid out in the end. If you enjoyed it, please give it a download. Add me on Xbox Live. My gamertag is in the description if you need the spelling. If you have any suggestions for future recreations, or if you would like one of your maps featured on my channel, please send me a message on Xbox Live and I will do my best to make that happen. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with any of your Halo friends, and I'll catch you guys next time.